My name is Balázs, and I'm a PhD student in the University of Manchester in social anthropology. And thank you for this opportunity. Oh, now you can hear me. I'm very happy to be here. And I'm going to talk about an important aspect of the post-Maidan social transformation in Ukraine, the decolonization laws, which were issued in 2015, April. And these laws address the historical memory of the 20th century Ukraine. And it is a set of laws, but you can see them. Okay. I will focus on the second one, which you can see in red. And these laws are concerned with the symbolic aspects of memory politics in contemporary Ukraine. These laws has three main practical implications. It's about monuments, toponyms, and the holiday calendar. And one of the first questions that have arisen in relation to this law was how this will work out in the Eastern Ukrainian context, where, to put it simply, Soviet narratives of history are traditionally more prevalent than in Western Ukraine. Well, the East-West divide is the subject of endless ongoing scholarly debate. I'm not going to go into that in detail. So, yeah, now I'm just showing one figure to illustrate the problem. And that's statistics about the pro-European preferences in Mariupol in 2018. So it's not even from 2014, but it's right now. And we can see that both the European Union and the NATO membership has an extremely low level support among local population. And, okay. Yeah, so through a case study of Mariupol, I was asking how decolonization laws are experienced by the population of Eastern Ukraine, by part of the population, and the assumptions of my paper are based on one-year fieldwork that I conducted in Mariupol in 2017 and 18. I got back in August, so it's all pretty fresh. And the main question of my PhD is to try to put it simple, how the Soviet past is reinterpreted in post-Soviet periphery as a consequence of the military conflict, and also as the consequence of the post-Maidan social transformation that is taking place in the whole country. And through this, I'm also trying to find the answer, what constitutes Soviet legacy exactly for the population, not as a conceptual question. So I was looking at the symbolic and material legacies in different field sites. Let's see. Yeah, these are my field sites. It's a social center of retired steelworkers. It's a contemporary art center called Platforma 2, dealing with not just contemporary art, but human rights issues and LGBT questions and all kinds of contemporary social issues, and also the local ecology movements. And about Mariupol, I'm going back. Sorry for this. Yes. So we heard a lot about Mariupol during the last days. And I think what is important for us now, first, this is a classical Soviet factory city or company town with the two large steel plants, Azovstal and Ilyicha, which were working as the city-forming enterprise. And these plants did not stop working after the collapse of the Soviet Union, unlike many other plants in the 90s. And the other thing to know, which most of you know, Mariupol was occupied by the DNR separatists in the spring of 2014, then retaken by the Ukrainian army. And for this reason, Mariupol obtained special significance in the Ukrainian national consciousness. This wasn't the case before, as the forepost of Ukraine, so-called. And the big paradox, which is already a kind of cliche when we are talking about Mariupol, is how the war caused this unexpected positive consequence, leading to a type of urban development, urban revival, or cultural revival, as many people call it there. And that is unforeseen in the post-independence period of Mariupol. And these factors, yeah, that's Mariupol, that's Azovstal, that's the burned out core Soviet. Yeah, and the factors behind this urban transformation you can see on this slide. And the decommunization process is one of these factors. That's what's coming from the government level. And my paper explored the three areas which I mentioned before. using ethnographic evidence. And these areas are the removal of Lenin statues, mostly from the city, the changing of place names and institution names, and the calendar reform. And the ethnographic material you can see in the paper in detail. And now I just want to share my main conclusions and show you some pictures. Okay. Yeah, that's my fieldwork. Okay. The first one. So the main problem with the laws from the population side, as predicted, it was the lack of social dialogue concerning the new policies. So, of course, particular attitudes differ through generation and class and different factors. But as we expect, pensioners, Eastern Ukrainian pensioners, felt offended by the removal of Lenin because it was part of this identity construction in which they lived most of their adult life. And young people, meaning 20s and 30s, they were not that fond of Lenin, but they were still not happy about the removal. Why so? First, no one was asked about this from the population. And second, no one knew who is the new guy in the place of Lenin. This is Lenin being removed from the main square. This is the new guy. You can see his Cossack hairstyle, and he's called Sviatoslav the Brave. Well, maybe he's more well-known for Western Ukrainian people, but for Mariupol people, it caused some kind of confusion. So everyone just smiled and said, like, well, we don't know who is he. So obviously there was no real social consensus about the new heroes that replaced Lenin. And in the paper I mentioned a Decom picnic organized by Platform at U. So Decom picnic, oh no, sorry, this is the change of Mariupol public space through the selfies of one inhabitant. And this was in 2015 when I first came to Mariupol, and it was just a moment of like accidentally we witnessed the covering up of the Lenin relief in the local museum. This is one of the discarded Lenins in the backyard of the local museum. And yes, these are pictures from Platform at U. These are not my photos. So this is about the Deccan Picnic. And Deccan Picnic was an event organized by Platform at U where people could come and share their impressions about the Soviet Union, about Lenin, and about the decommunization process itself. You can just see. These are the artworks. It's kind of therapy. Oh, this is an artwork of an artist that was in this year. This is Zakatki Lenin, how you call it. This is one of the renamed street from Komsomolsky to Morsky Boulevard, and you can see the signs still. Okay, that's the next one. So, yeah, decommunization or Decom Picnic was one of the examples of this bottom-up civil attempts to initiate a debate about the question, and this kind of debate was lacking from the government side. And okay, the next conclusion, or next thing I learned by investigating decommunization in Mariupol is that ideology cannot be understood as a thing standing in itself. So ideology is always deeply embedded in the material and practical structures of everyday life. So at least the Soviets were especially good about this. We can see, if you look at the example of the renaming of Ilyich factory, which I mentioned in my paper. So they had to rename the plant as a consequence of the law, but the renaming would have caused so serious economic damage. So they found a smart solution and renamed it after another Ilyich, Zot Ilyich Nekrasov, who was a steel engineer who worked at the plant in the 70s. So this story shows that the name represents much more than just one name. It represents a network of multi-layer structures which cannot be changed by a single law. So it means business relations, economic survival, workplaces, and workers. And that leads me to my last conclusion about the nature of the Soviet ideology. So if you look at the Mariupol context, especially the factory, we see that Soviet ideology is never an abstract collection of outdated slogans. So in the reality of Ilyich workers, it is connected to very concrete things. It is connected to their workplace, to the locality, to kinship, to the family members who were working in a factory for generations, and their children are also working in a factory. So if I still have 1 minute? Great, okay. So there was one event in the social center for the veterans when there was a movie about Makar Mazai, who is a famous local steelworker hero, Chelovek legenda. And for me, it really sounded like a Soviet propaganda movie. They were talking about norms, 5-year plans, and Stakhanovists. So we also saw these movies in Hungary, but as part of educational material, which were supposed to represent how crazy were the Soviet times. But there, it was without reflection. So that was something shown as part of their history, their traditions, their life. And there was also a group of school kids who were there to learn about their own history. So that's what I want to end or conclude with. So when they celebrate these events like Makar Mazai's birthday, or sing songs about the factory, or attend the 1st of May celebration, it is not about the pure admiration of Soviet Union or Soviet ideology per se. It is about people's own local traditions and the very material conditions of their own existence. So I finish here.